All right, welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Shutter Butter podcast. So today we're actually going to go international and we're going to interview one of my buddies, Baz Kannan. So he's going to shed some light on his experience and journey through digital art and becoming a digital artist. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically somebody who does image manipulation or gets creative with things like Photoshop and Premiere Pro. And he's going to kind of tell us how you can sort of do the same. He's also worked with a well-known best-selling Amazon writer, Dave Parada, on a project. So without further ado, let's go across the pond to Birmingham, United Kingdom, and welcome our buddy Baz. Baz, how's it going, man?
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been so long since I did a podcast, and the fact that you asked me to come on yours recently, it's like I actually feel excited to be part of it. Like I haven't done it for so long. I was always wondering, like, oh, when's my next podcast going to be? But glad to be here, man. I'm glad.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on, man. Not just because you're from Birmingham and my favorite ever show was filmed there, Peaky Blinders, by the way. But no, it's cool, man. Like I read a little bit about you, about how you've kind of got into digital art and the stuff you've been doing. I've taken a look at your page and it's pretty cool. So can you kind of go ahead and give us a little like 1 to 2 minute intro of how you sort of like went down this rabbit hole, let's call it?
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, the rabbit hole, man.
Oh, you mean how I got into digital art?
Exactly. Yeah. Or just
Okay.
like a 1 to 2 minute intro about yourself.
Okay, yeah, for sure. This is gonna go all the way back to high school. That's when I first got exposed to it. So I was in the year 7 or 6th grade, I think they call it in the US, where I think my school was hosting like some classes on Photoshop. And I was curious about it. I was thinking, yeah, what's this about? Like, I want to see, what it's all about, really. Like, just see what the hype and what the fuss is about. So I signed up for these classes and I went into the classroom. I sat down, opened up the computer and loaded Photoshop in. And they basically taught me like how to like remove the background from like an image of Super Mario and superimpose that onto like a disco, for example. Like it was basically like an exercise on on image manipulation basically. And I knew from that moment, like I fell in love with the process basically, and I knew that something just clicked. Like when you find something after so long, it's like things just finally fall into place and click. Like that's the kind of feeling I got with this.
That's the best feeling in the world, man.
Yeah, because I know like I tried so many different things. Like I tried programming, computer science, I tried economics, sucked at that. I tried playing cricket, which is like Indian baseball.
Indian baseball.
Yeah.
Oh man, like I'm from a predominantly like Indian kind of I live in a predominantly like Indian area and I see people playing cricket all the time, man, but I've never learned how to play, but it looks fun.
Yeah, it's good fun. Except I know I would never really made it to the India cricket team because yeah, it's just another league, man. But yeah, the point is like there's going to be a lot of things you try and you're not necessarily going to succeed or find yourself enjoying it. Like, but the main thing is to just keep pushing through, keep like be open minded to like trying new things and having that mindset. Actually, I would say the most important thing is mindset, because if you don't have mindset nailed down, then yeah, nothing else is going to work. I'll just say this to be honest. But if you have the mindset of, okay, as soon as I leave this house, everything's an adventure. As soon as I try something new, like go to a new martial arts class or sign up for a cooking class or whatever, then it's an adventure. Like just embrace the moment and enjoy it for what it is. Obviously, if it works out, then awesome. But if it doesn't work out, then you can say to yourself, okay, I gave it a try. I learned something. And basically the worst case scenario is you learn that it's not for you, and that's okay. It's just redirecting you to a path which is eventually going to be better for you. So yeah, that's essentially how I stumbled upon like, my passions, which is like photo and video editing. So after that class, I basically ran home to my parents and said, Mom, Dad, I want to buy some editing software. So I spent like what, £60 on like Photoshop and Premiere Pro. And I think it was Premiere Pro or Premiere Elements. I can't remember, but yeah, this is all the way back in like 2010, like crazy.
Oh, so okay, so you've been kind of into this for a while, it seems like.
Well, a while, but then I did take like some time off like in between because of like I had to like study for exams and stuff and get into university. And there was basically a period where I just didn't do anything like at all. But once I got into university, once I completed my studies, then yeah, I got back into it and I've been participating in a variety of different projects since then. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, I 100% agree with the mindset part, and that's part of the reason I had you on, because I know you have like some good lessons to kind of share in that regard, and also because Photoshop was actually one of the things that I sort of just gave up on in high school. Like, I think in Photoshop, there's like layers and stuff that you have to kind of learn how to you kind of have to learn how to manipulate with. So I think it's pretty awesome to have you on to talk about that, because like back in high school, I was one of those people who just like kind of gave up a little too early on that on that stuff. But I'm guessing you didn't go to school for photography, right? This is you went to school for computer science or something, right?
Yeah, I didn't learn photography at school. I pretty much just taught it myself through like YouTube videos. So I would watch YouTubers like Peter McKinnon or Freddie Wong or Corridor Digital from back in my day. And they pretty much had tutorials on like visual effects, video editing, motion graphics, and all that cool stuff which you see in like movies, like how to recreate like the lightsaber effect from Star Wars. Like, yeah, pretty much learned it from these guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
Freddie Wong, if anyone knows,
Yeah,
from back in the
that's
day.
interesting, man, because like I've only taken a few computer science courses through my like college years, and at least based on what I know, computer science is a very black and white is a very black and white kind of career path, whereas like digital art is something that's like a little bit more on the creative side of things. So how does that transition kind of work? Were you just like not really is this just kind of you're more interested in that stuff, or like it's definitely an interesting like kind of transition how you have a mix of both, right? So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think I'll start all the way back from school. So basically, like, you know how I grew up in like an Indian family, and we're basically conditioned from a young age that, oh, we got to go to school, get good grades, get a good education, and so on. And I think one of the ways in which we're conditioned is we're basically told from a young age that, oh, if we don't study medicine or engineering or whatever, then we're basically considered failures in life. And if you want my honest opinion on that, I think it's total bullshit. Like,
Oh, I
the
agree.
amount of people that I know that study these subjects and are just feeling unfulfilled or just miserable, or they're not happy because they're not living by their true values or what they actually want to do, like, it's just surprising just how many are out there, at least from what I've seen anyways. So that's why I believe it's so important to like be able to think, is this path actually right for me? Is this going to make you fulfill? Obviously, like, if being a doctor or being an engineer is what fulfills you, then fair enough. But I'm talking about those who choose something just to please others or just to fit in, or all these reasons which basically doesn't serve them, instead of going after what they actually want. And I think following these belief systems can actually hold them back in a way. So that's why I think it's really important to like live by your values and actually go after what you're passionate about. Because to be honest, man, like, if you're good at something, you're gonna succeed in it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, if you're passionate about writing, then you pursue copywriting. Or if you're passionate about making movies or taking photos, then you pursued a career related to that. And you got to ask yourself, is a degree really necessary for these things? Like, obviously, if you want to be a doctor or engineer, then yeah, you got to have a medicine degree, or you got to have a degree in like mechanical engineering or computer engineering, for example. Then yeah, it would make sense to do a degree then. Otherwise, there's no point in getting yourself into shitloads of debt and just basically find yourself having being screwed over just because, yeah, you just followed what society told you and not thought, okay, is this the right path for me, or is there another way to get to my goals? You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, 100. I see. I think we have a lot of like overarching beliefs here, because like I feel like if you actually want to be, if you're actually passionate about something, you should put the time and energy into it, because there's so many people who just kind of like give up prematurely, right? Like if they wanted to, if they want to become a better like 3-point shooter in basketball or something, they're like, "Ah, okay, this is not worth it. I'm just gonna like it's not worth like people don't really necessarily put in the necessary dedication that's really needed towards the thing that they're actually pursuing. So how do you kind of like stay sort of like stay on track and stay motivated despite like all this like background noise with people saying like, oh, this is kind of off the beaten path, right? Like Photoshop isn't something that we're conditioned to have a career in, right? As people of color. So how do you kind of stay motivated with and really stay on the grind with that? Because I know there's a lot of background noise, especially being a person of color.
Yeah, I think when it comes to following your passions, like, it definitely is important to be in the right environment. Because I'll be honest, man, like, when I grew up in school, that was definitely not the right environment for me. Like, I went through a lot of bullying. I had literally almost zero friends, or I had friendships, but they weren't really serving me. They were actually holding me back from getting me where I wanted to be. And just the whole culture and society, it's like they basically condition you to not think for yourself, just blindly follow what they expect. They basically say to you, oh, you got to get good grades, otherwise you're a failure in life, which is bullshit, because I know plenty of people who got top grades at school and they are not fulfilled, or they're not happy with their lives. And that's just how it is. Like and I'm speaking from what I've seen. So, so many people, they just live a false narrative. Like they don't truly live by their values, and they just do what society or everyone else expects them to do, because they're always afraid of looking stupid, or thinking, what are people going to think of me if I don't do doctor, if I don't become a doctor, or if I don't study engineering. So I think a lot of it's to do with environment. And to be honest, the school isn't the best environment to succeeding, like especially in your passions. Like you want to be surrounded by people who want to level you up, who are going to provide value to you, and who are going to, they want to see you do well. And I think more often than not, I see like whenever someone is succeeding or leveling up, like there'll be some people around them who start feeling like jealous or insecure and envy and all these negative emotions and feelings, and they kind of project that outwards onto them. I know this because I was guilty of this myself when I was in school. Like I was seeing like some of my friends like doing really well in like school and stuff, and because I was insecure at the time, like I was feeling like all these negative emotions, feeling like, if he does worse than me, I'll feel happy. Okay, I feel like a dick saying this, but yeah, I'm guilty of these insecurities myself, and that's all it was. It was just insecurity. Like there was nothing wrong with what these people were doing. Like they were great at what they did, but it's just that because I wasn't happy and fulfilled with myself, I ended up projecting that onto other people, and that's really not the right way to go. Like obviously, the main thing is to learn to be happy for other people and see what you can learn to level yourself up. Rather than trying to knock other buildings down, find out what you can do to raise yourself up. And obviously, if you need help, then yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's another thing. Like a lot of people, they're scared of asking for help. Like they feel like they're going to get judged, or they feel like they're going to come across as weak. And that's not necessarily the case. Like everybody needs help at some point in their life. Like, if I want help, I'm not going to be afraid to ask for it. Like I will say, yeah, I need help. Like, yeah, sort me out, geezer. But like again, it comes back to my point of people are afraid of looking stupid. Like they want to be seen as well liked or intelligent or all these different things. But we're all human at the end of the day. Nobody's perfect. Like we've got flaws. The main thing is we're trying to improve, and it's a journey. And it's all about just embracing the journey and enjoying the process along the way. And with regards to Photoshop stuff, like I think one thing I enjoy the most is the process, like the idea of being able to create something from nothing, or using different images and combining them together to form one final image. Like all these movie posters you see of like Avengers and all these blockbuster movies, like they have like multiple different layers, and some of it can be really complicated. I know, because yeah, if you see some of the Instagram posts on my page, like yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. So
Yeah,
and you really have to enjoy the process to be able to sustain yourself, because if you're not passionate in it, then you're going to eventually give up and burn out. And I think one thing which has helped me to keep going is thinking of it like it's like one of those graphs in maths. I don't know if you ever did those. It's like you put some effort in, but then it's like you don't see much
oh,
progress. And
like a bell curve, right?
yeah, if people are watching the video format, yeah, they'll be able to see what I'm doing. So like you got to put in effort, and they're not going to see much results initially, but if you keep doing it, eventually it's going to snowball and get bigger. And then one day it just shoots up, and then suddenly you're like, oh wow, I'm seeing massive results now. So I think the main thing is to keep putting in effort, like consistently, no matter what happens. And we don't know when we're going to break through, but the main thing is just trust the process and understand that if I keep doing this instead of giving up, like then it's only a matter of time until something clicks. And I think the main thing is realizing that well, the main thing you got to do is just not give up, because the only thing that's stopping us is our own mindset. And if we have that mindset shift where we say, okay, I'm not seeing results, but who cares, I'm enjoying the process and I'm going to keep doing it. So that's the way you got to see it in my view. And I'm just trying to bring my thoughts together. But it's like yeah, it's just remembering your vision at the end of the day, like remembering your purpose, understanding yourself, like your motivations, like on the deeper level. Like so many of us, like we don't truly know ourselves, and we we haven't dove deep enough to know what it is we actually want and why we need to do what we need to do. So it's just not be results focused, because I think once you find that you are results focused and you don't see results immediately, then that's just an easy way to raise the flag and be like, all right, I'm done with this. Yeah, but no, you got to keep going. And the main thing is just think of that graph. Like, just know that eventually, it's going to take off, but it could be months, it could be years, who knows? But the main thing is you got to keep going. And it'll be like a snowball effect.
Yeah, so it compounds the more you do it. The more you stay consistent with something, it snowballs and compounds, just like you said. But do you ever find that, like, what I meant by the bell curve is, for those of you watching the video format, it's like you put a little bit of effort. Say the y-axis, the x-axis is just like how much effort you put in, and then the y-axis is like the results or the performance. So it starts off very, very small, like you put in more effort, not getting a lot. Then one day, just like you said, it snowballs and then you get a lot of results. But then there's a point where if you put too much effort, it comes down. That's why it's like a bell curve. So do you think there's kind of like a sweet spot in terms of like overworking yourself or getting a little like too overly invested into Photoshop where it actually kind of isn't as productive as putting just the right amount of effort in?
Yeah, I think definitely, just like with everything else, like there's a certain balance. Like there's that little gray area or sweet spot, like you say, where you got to be able to hit. And to be honest, man, it's very hard to do. Like I sometimes struggle with it myself, but that's really how to get success. If that's what you want, then you got to be able to find that sweet spot. And I think sometimes it takes a bit of trial and error too, and a bit of experience. Like some days where you don't work hard enough and you don't see results, and there's other days where you're putting too much effort and then you have the law of diminishing returns, where basically any effort you put beyond that point, the output just decreases. Basically,
I feel so bad.
I hope I'm making sense.
I feel so bad for those people, man. They spend like hours on Photoshop that something just like deletes and then it doesn't save.
Oh my god, I've had that happen, and I've also had times where I put in fucking loads of effort into an edit, and it just, in terms of engagement, it just flops. But that's okay. Like it's part of the process. Like you got to be okay with that and just keep going. And that's another thing is when you are getting into Photoshop, like just understand that it is a monetizable skill, which is highly in demand. Like there's a big demand for it, and especially with social media platforms like TikTok, they continue to expand. Like the demand is only going to increase as time goes on, and especially with COVID-19 and 2020 and how everything's gone these days. Like
Dude,
everything's been shifted to remote working.
oh man, dude, I think like Fiverr and Upwork are literally like blowing up right now for so many different like monetizable skills. But I like how you mentioned like knocking buildings down or projecting your insecure beliefs onto other people. And I actually used to be one of these people too. Like, man, I remember in high school, maybe a little bit in college too, I'd be the guy who, oh, I didn't do that good on this exam. Oh, let me see how this guy did. Oh, he didn't do as good as me. Oh, okay, now I feel better about myself. So it's funny how you say that, because you said they're limiting beliefs, which is true, which is exactly what they are. And you also mentioned that you didn't really have a lot of good influences early on when you were starting the skills. So how did these like bullies or these kind of people kind of throw these like limiting beliefs? Like what kind of resistance were you getting from them when you tried to get into this field?
Yeah, I think like when I was in school, like I wanted to make videos or do some photo edits. Like I remember the first time I ever made a video or even just doing a photo edit, almost nobody wanted to be involved in them. And it's like, oh, I got to be able to come up with something amazing, potentially like on my own to start off with, or ask one of my close friends to help me out. And then as time goes on, like when you show it to people, like they'll start to see, oh, this is actually really good. And then when you get to a certain level, it's like, oh, people start hitting you up for projects, or even they themselves want to start joining you on the journey. And one of the reasons I started my Instagram page was not only to create awesome pictures for myself, but also to help other people as well see, just to enjoy life for what it is and show them what's possible. And also, like, who doesn't want to look like the part of the Avengers or Star Wars and all this cool stuff?
Or Peaky Blinders for me, make me look like Thomas Shelby, man.
Yeah, I think you still need an edit for that.
Yeah, I probably need to change the skin tone too.
That's the power of Photoshop, man.
Exactly, man. But can you kind of like run us through the process? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit. So I know there's like a lot of image manipulation. You kind of have to take non-copyright photos and things like that. Like basically photos that you have permission for. But anyone that doesn't really know exactly what a digital artist does, more or less, can you kind of like run us through the process of like do you go out and take photos? Do you borrow them from somewhere else? And how long, like how many hours do you kind of spend? Like what's the whole process kind of like for you?
Yeah, I think first things first. When you're starting out with this, make sure the image is not copyrighted. Otherwise, you got a lot of big shit for that. So yeah, understand the laws behind all this. It's the first thing. And secondly, like when it comes to Photoshop editing, like I think it depends on the edit. Like there were some edits where I just use stock images where I had permission to use them and just edit using that. And there were other times where I would go out, take some photos, either at the university campus or at the park or wherever, and I would combine that with some elements of images. Like essentially what compositing is, or what digital editing is, essentially it's just combining different images into one. So it gives the illusion that something is happening when really it's just like, there's multiple different things happening, but then the human eye perceives it as one image. And that's how they do visual effects. Like you see like someone shooting a gun in a James Bond movie, they have this muzzle flash coming out and all the smoke and all the bullets and stuff. But that's all like, it's all like different images added in together. So it gives that illusion that a gun is firing when really it's just, because obviously if you use a real gun, then yeah, people are going to get killed and nobody wants that. So
Nobody
it's
wants.
one of the beautiful things about visual effects.
Yeah, man. Because I was actually like looking at your page, like in research for this podcast, and I was looking at like some of the edits you did, and these are like some crazy realistic like movie posters. And you also have a video of this like it's on your YouTube channel. Actually, we'll put it in the comment box below here, wherever the listeners are happen to be watching, and it was like a GTA Online. By the way, the commentator for that was unreal, whoever that was. It was me, by the way, in case you're wondering. But yeah, like things like that, where you did like a GTA simulation, everything looks so realistic. It almost felt like you were playing the actual game, especially with all the camera angles and everything like that. How long would something like that take? Because that looked like a heck of a lot of work in Premiere Pro.
Oh my God. So much time into this. Like I was in my third year of university at the time. I think it was 2018. I filmed it with my friends around January time. And then I had exams in between. So there were
Oh
some
God.
times where I didn't do any work for it at all. But then the other times was like, I think altogether it was like 3 or 4 months, including exams, like in
Oh,
between. And essentially I used like Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects, the software, which I used to create the video. And I had to think about all the little details and try to match like the detail in the game and just understanding like just how it works and stuff. So I think the way I went about it was I learned the basics of After Effects and just understanding like the key principles and the fundamentals, and then think, okay, I've got these tools, I've got this knowledge. How can I apply this to recreate what Rockstar Games did in their video games? So it wasn't easy, to be honest. Like there were definitely times where I've had the software like crash on me. There were times where
that is the
I
worst.
thought I saved my work and I didn't save my work and I had to fucking do it again. And it can be a headache sometimes, but
Dude, on
yeah.
my YouTube channel, okay, so first of all, I don't have a very good computer, so I tried like downloading Adobe Premiere Pro on like an 8 GB RAM tablet. Yeah, a tablet, and it was just like burning up the whole time. And I was literally like, the video was called like the best apps for 2021. That's what I felt. That's what I was editing. And all I wanted to do was literally just add a few images of the apps I was talking about, and it took me like 4 or 5 hours just because I'd never used it before, right? And my laptop or tablet was just burning, and I could hear the fan. It was so loud, right? And then I think I click save. I'm even to this day, I'm pretty sure I click save. I click it, and I come back the next day, which is Wednesday, which is usually when I plan to release a video, and it's just not there. And then I'm thinking like, okay, like what the fuck do I do now? Like do I start? I did have to start again, obviously, but were there any parts like that where you were just kind of like, man, like, is this even worth doing? Like, oh, this many weeks worth of work has just gone to waste. This many hours of work just kind of went down the trash can. Like, is there is there a lot of moments where you feel like you're giving up, but then, and how do you kind of like remind yourself to stay on the grind per se? Because I think an important thing when you're following a new passion is staying motivated when there is no motivation, right? Because like you could watch like a Dwayne Johnson or something like that giving you some motivational speech online and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go for it right now. But eventually at a certain time, motivation does die down, especially when something doesn't save on you, right? So when you don't necessarily have the motivation active in your head, how do you kind of stay on the grind? Like what's something you kind of tell yourself? So I know you're mentioning mindset a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I want to highlight is there is a difference between motivation and discipline. And discipline is essentially where even if you don't feel like doing something, or even when shit happens, like you're gonna keep going no matter fucking what. Whereas motivation like just comes and goes, and you want to focus on the things that are like permanent. And I think the main thing is just accepting reality for what it is and understand that, just like with everything else, shit's gonna happen. Things aren't always going to go to plan, and Photoshop and editing is no different for that. And the main thing is your perception towards it, how you handle it, and also changing your beliefs, which serves you. Because to be honest, a lot of us, and including myself at one point, like we had been conditioned with limiting beliefs, which holds us back from getting us to where we want to be. And I think part of it stems from schooling or our parents to some extent. Like they project their own beliefs onto me. They believe that what they did worked for them, and so they pass it down onto us. But then, I mean, they mean well and stuff, but it's like does it really serve us, or do we actually benefit from this, believing these things? So I think another key thing is being able to think for yourself and not blindly follow what what society lays out for us or what other people lay out for us and stuff. So I think a lot of it is just perception and how you respond to the situation, and seeing failure as feedback. Because to be honest, man, like society projects failure as like this negative thing when the reality is it's like the opposite of that. Like there were definitely some exams in school where I failed and I had to do it again, but if anything, I look back to it now and it's like, yeah, the only reason I failed was because I made this mistake, or I didn't do this properly, or this happened,
Or
whatever.
the teacher sucked.
Like I learned from the experience, and just I sat the exam again and I passed this time. So yeah, there's nothing really wrong in the scheme of things. It's just okay, on that particular day I didn't do well, so what? Like shit happens. And I just did it again, passed, got my degree. Yeah, no problems now. So I don't think a lot of it is to do with like how you handle it or how to like bounce back. So if you get knocked on the floor, it's like that move Jackie Chan does in those martial arts movies where he like
Oh,
brings
the OG one.
yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of thing you got to do like when you get knocked down.
Just beat the shit out of some other guys.
Oh no, that's not what I meant. It's like when he gets knocked on the floor, he
Yeah,
springs
yeah.
back.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah. No, I love what you said about school. Like, I feel like school has conditioned us to overthink because a lot of these a lot of it is in your head, like what you said, right? And school doesn't necessarily give us any like self-development or like self-improvement classes, right? So I feel like
No,
that I, I,
definitely not.
I feel like they should, there's a lot of things schools should teach, taxes.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, yeah, school should teach us that and it would help us be successful. However, the real reason why they teach us algebra and Pythagoras theorem and all this useless crap, which we're never going to use, and to be honest, I never use to this day, is because, it's for one reason only. They just want us to be the cogs of the society, like a machine. And that's fine, because I mean, society does need
Yeah.
these things after all, but obviously, like, we're not going to run out of those anytime soon. And, life is too short to be settling for a life you don't really want. So you might as well, take the steps you need to go for what you actually want and making sure you're in an environment which serves you. Which brings me to my next point. Like, if you want to pursue a passion in photography or self-development or whatever, then you got to be in an environment where other people also share these values. And I want to share this piece of information. Like, you have to become the person you want to meet. Like, let's say, for example, you have like this billionaire, let's say Tony Stark, for example, and you're a guy who lives in his mom's basement playing video games, and you go up to Tony Stark and say, "Hey, can we be friends?" He's going to be like, "Yo, what the fuck? I don't want to be friends with you." Like,
Yeah,
like,
you can't approach the big dogs just like that, you got to make your way up.
yeah. So yeah, if you want to connect with other like-minded cool cool people. Like you got to become that person too. And obviously, like working on yourself is really beneficial in that way. And it's about understanding yourself, finding yourself first before you can expect other people to like you, if you know what I mean. Like ever since I worked on myself through reading books, practicing meditation, or practicing all these healthy habits, which is like, you know, going to keep us in a healthy state of mind. Like it's really made a difference. And another thing I want to touch upon is making friends after school or university. Like I see a lot of people
Dude,
say
so many
like,
people struggle with that after they like leave their college fraternities or just leave school. They like don't know how to make friends anymore.
yeah. And I think a lot of it is because the friendships we have in school is pretty much forced or convenient, as to say. Like we just bump into them just because, you know, they're in the same class as us, or we're
Exactly.
part of the same club or whatever. But yeah, they're not really intentional about it. They just kind of rely on luck to some degree, or to a large degree rather. But we're not really taught like how to make friends after school's finished, right? And I can share like how I did that successfully.
Please do, because I know you said like um how you were kind of bullied in school at a young age and things like that, and then you found photography. So, or sorry, then you found like photo editing and stuff. So yeah, share a little bit more about that. So um did that kind of help with finding more friends when you realized like this is what I like? Let me find people who are also interested in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll start from when I was back in school, like when I had like almost no friends or really crappy friendships, because yeah, I got involved in some things which I really shouldn't have in hindsight. So, you know, I think the main thing is realizing that, okay, I'm not in a good place. Then, you know, I could either play the victim, which, you know, I did for a while. I'm guilty of this myself, but you got to realize that playing the victim removes responsibility from the equation.
It's
And
pussy attitude, man.
yeah, it just doesn't serve anyone, and it's not going to make the problems magically disappear. Like thing is, I used to think complaining would just make things magically disappear, but the reality is it just doesn't fucking work that way. Like you got to be like, okay, it's my fault, you know, I gotta dig myself out of it. Like no, Superman ain't gonna come in and save you today. Like, you know, I gotta save myself.
Unless you edit him coming in and physically picking you up, swooping you off your feet, then maybe.
Well, reality check, it's not gonna fucking work. Yeah, and I think some of the steps which I've taken was obviously, if you have negative friendships or toxic friendships, you got to cut them out. Like, there's no question about that. Like, ever since I cut out toxic friendships from my life has improved so much. Like, the quality of life, the kind of people I've met, just my mood overall. Like, I feel a lot more positive, a lot more fulfilled. Like, my mind's at peace, you know. And I've been more intentional about meeting the kind of people I want to meet through working on myself as well, and also joining Facebook groups on either personal development or entrepreneurial stuff or martial arts or just or video games or whatever it may well be. Like just joining those clubs. Even at university, like I joined clubs which are related to my interests, and I met some pretty cool people there. Like some of those friends I'm still in touch with to this day. And even after university, like I joined in international Facebook groups where I pretty much connected with people from all over the world. So I basically went from having almost no friends at school to having pretty much friends from everywhere in the world. Like if I were to go to Toronto, for example, like you
I
know,
got a spare bedroom, man. Come crash here.
yeah, I'd be able to chill with someone. Or if I go to New York, like yeah, I'll be able to chill with someone. So you know, the world is a small place, and it's smaller than you think. And conventional ways of making friends, it just doesn't work as well. Like you got to be intentional about it. You got to make things happen. Like in fact, some of the best friendships I've ever had in my life all came from online. So, and I think a lot of people they have this limiting belief that oh, if I don't meet them in real life, then it's not going to work. When
Yeah,
the reality is,
it's a different time. That's because like a lot of people like it's the same thing. It's societal conditioning, right? Like you can only meet friends through sports, through school, and through I don't know, however people are taught to make friends.
yeah, like social media, Facebook groups, like they're a really good way. Meetup.com is another one. And literally just from Facebook groups alone, I've managed to connect with people from so many different countries. I'm talking like Italy, Serbia, Mexico, Canada, the US,
That's awesome, man.
New Zealand, like so many different countries, man. Like literally, all you got to do is just do things different to most people. Like if you want to live a life which most people don't live, you got to do the things which most people don't. And I think that's the takeaway message, which I want people really internalize and really understand that, if you listen to most people, you're not gonna get the life you want. That's just how it
Absolutely.
is.
And did you feel like did you feel like the resistance from other people definitely died down when you like reached out to people on these Facebook groups and found yourself a new friend group? Was the resistance kind of gone, or were there still some people who gave you resistance? Like, because I know like, did your parents or anyone else kind of give you any resistance when you sort of changed your friend group a little bit?
And not so much my parents, it was mainly people I knew from my school. They'd be like, oh, you can't do this, it's weird, or you don't know, and all these different excuses, which is just it's just bullshit, really. Like,
And was
you
this
know,
about Photoshop or about like finding more and or connecting with people worldwide?
yeah, mainly connecting with people from like different parts of the world. Like people would be like, "Oh, you can't connect with these people. You've never met them in real life, or you're never going to meet them." Like the thing is, you got to make things happen. You can't just rely on luck. You can't just rely on stumbling across a survey. Like for
And you guys
example,
are in like the worst lockdown, I think, in the world right now. So there's really, I mean, you're kind
yeah,
of adapting the situation, right?
yeah. I mean, even during the worldwide lockdown, I've still managed to make some pretty awesome friends, and not just from the UK, but from different parts of the world too. So there's always a way, man.
Yeah, man. And so I know a lot of people are a little like hesitant to sort of invest in themselves because it's scary, right? Like buying a software or buying like a DSLR camera or something like that. Actually, even buying this mic right here was sort of scary for me because I'm like, wow, I'm actually dropping a lot of money on starting something. So what kind of advice do you have to someone else who's looking to start into it, but they're sort of scared in terms of like how much in terms of like an investment point of view?
Yeah. So yeah, I could definitely speak about this, and I think the main thing to consider is the two factors, money and time. And one thing I see with a lot of people is they value their money so much, but they don't value their time anywhere near as much. Like they're happy to waste time on Netflix or I don't know what other stuff is there to waste time on. But yeah, all these different things. But then when it comes to financial decisions of money, like let's say hiring a life coach or a tutor to like help you with the exams or investing in software or even courses to improve yourself, they're like, oh, it's expensive. Like £60 is expensive, but then they have no issues like paying £1,000 for like a holiday or
Oh my
for a Big
god.
Sean concert or whatever. And it's like, yeah, the truth is like the priorities are just not in the right place. And you know, if you want something bad enough, like you'll find a way to make it happen. Like that's just what it is. And we're conditioned to pretty much be a consumer for a
Oh,
lot of
dude,
these.
you're conditioned to like get married by 25 and have all this debt on a new house, have all this college debt. Um, Conditioned to like have a dog and like other stupid shit. I love dogs, by the way. So no offense to anyone who's listening to this, but no, man, there's like, there's just so much like conditioning that if you don't follow these like if you don't get locked into a car payment for a few years, you're a loser. If you don't get locked into paying off your college debt, you're also a loser. But really, the people who don't follow these rules, I'm not saying that anyone who follows these kind of societal norms is wrong in any way, but the people who tend not to are the ones who really like go and like actually find their other passion. And that, I think that's the thing that's so interesting because you mentioned like, man, like so many people like spend money on Netflix or basically stuff that wastes time. I, I do love Netflix, by the way, so I am sort of one of those people, but um, you should be willing to take a chance on yourself, right? You should be willing to be like, okay, you know what? Like £60 to take this course on photography or something. Like, yeah, could I waste this money and never use again? Sure. But maybe the fact that it's £60 will actually make me want to pursue it a little bit more. Like, do you think that there's a kind of a complex to that?
Yeah, obviously, like when you buy a course, like it's not enough just to buy the course. Like you got to be able to take action and implement it in your life. Like it's very easy to just read something and not actually do it. And I'm guilty of this myself. But if you want to see results or some kind of success, then yeah, you gotta take action. You gotta face the pain. Like see pain is a good thing. Like don't see pain as like, oh no, it's so scary. Like see it as like, oh, pain is my best friend. I'm gonna fucking do it. So and also just betting on yourself. Really, like I think of so many people, they just think of all the different things which can go wrong. And while it is true, some things can go wrong, but also think of the things which can go right. And more often than not, when you write this down, like if you have a column for what can go right and what can go wrong, you'll find that there's a lot more. that can go right, then what can go wrong. And I'll share an experience. Like, I got scammed a few years ago with
Oh,
some,
what?
financial opportunities, but
Oh,
I
wait, was
learned
it
a
a
lot.
pyramid scheme or what?
Yeah, it's one of those. But the main thing is, I lost a lot of money, but I learned so much from that. Like, it taught me some valuable lessons which I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So,
Elaborate on this. I'm kind of curious because I have a pyramid scheme story too, where like a friend like reached out to me after like a number of years, but go on.
it's just because I was kind of naive and innocent at the time, so I kind of used to just believe anything. Again, it comes back to not thinking for myself and just blindly following what other people were telling me, which it's my
Yeah,
fault. Looking back.
because school like makes you think that you're wrong for failing a course or failing or right? Like school makes you overthink and makes you think you're bad if you didn't do something right when really it was just like a little bit of a course correction, right?
Yeah, rejection is just
Yeah,
redirection.
rejection is
Like,
just you're taught that like rejection is so bad. But anyways, man, yeah, go on with your your story.
with with the story, yeah, I think I was introduced to this opportunity. When I say opportunity, I mean like no red flag. But yeah, because one of my goals was to go for the life I want and get a lifestyle. Like, I thought, okay, maybe this will help me get there. But then here's the thing: like, a lot of people out there, they're not going to have your best interests at heart. Like when it comes to like making money or whatever. So you really got to think, is this actually going to serve me, or is this actually going to help me get to where I want to be? And I'm going to spill some truth right here. Like, the only way you're going to be successful is with hard work and perseverance. So yeah, no schemes, no get rich quick, none of that stuff. Like, just hard work and picking something which is going to provide value, either
Really,
to
dude, I thought
yourself.
there was like a magic pill where I just swallow something and it just comes. You're telling me that doesn't exist?
Yeah, there's no magic fix. Sorry to bust your bubble, mate.
Yeah. Man, that's so funny that you mentioned that though, because I had a friend who I knew him through high school, right? And there's nothing wrong with him, pretty cool guy, right? But I haven't talked to this guy in maybe like a year and a half, and I'm back in town for the summer, and this guy messages me and says, "Hey Sal, long time no see. How's your summer going?" And the way he said it, I was just like, why is he so excited? I haven't talked to this guy in about 2 years. And then I was just like, oh, good. How about you? And then he like sends me a paragraph, like, or not a paragraph yet, but he says like, oh, cool. But just working on my ex business. How about you? And then obviously he's waiting for me to ask like, what's that? Right. And I knew it was right there. I knew he was trying to sell me something. Right. So of course I asked that because like I'm conditioned to, oh, when someone like hints at something, you should ask and be polite. Like that's just what I was conditioned. Honestly, still am conditioned to do. And then he sends me with this paragraph. It's be like, oh, we're a group of entrepreneurs looking for Forex traders and et cetera, et cetera. You only have to pay this much a month and you can get way more people to work for you. He's like, does that sound good to you? And then I even said like, yes, oh yeah, that sounds good to me. Just to be polite because I was so afraid of like confrontation, which I think like school teaches you that too, right?
Yeah, another thing I want to come upon is setting boundaries, like just how important it is. Like, you gotta live by your values, go for what you want, and if you're not okay with something, then yeah, just like call them out on it, or don't get walked all over. And this is something which I struggled with for a long time. Like, I used to let people like take advantage of me or walk all over me just because like school conditioned me to become quote unquote nice guy, where I was just told to, just be good or be nice or don't get into confrontation. Because I think initially, like when you're like 5 or 10, like when there's no conditioning, like you can pretty much do whatever the fuck you want. Like I pretty much did whatever I wanted. And if I didn't like something, I would just be like, I'm not taking that shit. But then teachers or society, they'll condition you to think, oh no, you can't be like that. You gotta be good. You gotta follow the rules. You gotta do this, that, and all this malarkey. And that fucking conditioned me to becoming, too nice to the point where I ended up getting like taken advantage of like in my later years. And the thing is, it doesn't help that when you try to stand up for yourself or try to like go for what you want, like they pretty much punish you for it. Like
Oh,
I
I
can tell you
know.
the
You're
amount of
taught
times
to,
I've been
like you're taught
suspended.
to literally like just go to the teacher and explain like no like I'm gonna kick someone's ass. Okay, at least like I thought that and like growing up like if someone beefed me I would kind of react. I'm not saying this is the way to go, but I would react back. But then it would be like I would get in trouble. I would get in more trouble than the instigator kind of thing.
yeah, you'd get in more trouble for standing up for yourself than you would for just being walked all over, which to me is like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, like, I don't know if you saw that video a few years back. It was like this video which went viral of this little kid picking on the bigger kid in Australia. And the kid just snapped and pretty much fought back and pretty much put him in his place. But I mean, they both got suspended for it, but I think it worked out well for the victim because, he pretty much got like international fame just from that video on
Oh,
YouTube. I don't know if you remember that.
well, it's worth it for him, right? I actually didn't see that video, but like it sounds like it worked out well for at least one of them.
Yeah, I think it's this kid back in Australia. If you search it up, yeah, you'll be able to see the story for that.
But I loved how you brought up nice guys. And when people say like, oh, nice guys, they don't mean like people like guys who are or not just guys, like people who are kind. They mean people who don't set boundaries and they get walked all over you. They get walked all over, and then they're just pussies basically, right? Because they don't have any boundaries and people just walk all over them without even thinking that they're walking over them. People naturally just walk all over. So is there any time like when you were growing up or even in like your business right now where clients like try and take advantage of you or things like that, and how do you kind of overcome that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is being centered and calm and not allowing anyone to knock you off center. I mean, something I'm working on right now, but definitely a lot better than before. Like there were definitely times where, I was scheduling a meeting with a friend or whatever, and they were like 30 minutes late. And I'm like, yo, if you're running late, that's cool. But, let me know in advance. Like, I don't like having my time wasted. Like, I will say that now. Whereas before, I'd be like, oh, no worries. It's fine. Just let it slide. But here's the thing. Like, if you don't set your boundaries, then subconsciously people are not going to respect you. And yeah, sure, some people might get pissed off when you try to set boundaries, but more often than not, it's going to do more good than harm, and they're going to respect you in the long run. So the main takeaway is, if in doubt, set the boundaries and put yourself first, because respect is more important than people pleasing. And ironically, people pleasing is what leads to low self-esteem and insecurity, at least from what I've seen, anyways. So you might as well go after what you want.
Exactly, right? Because if you're always like, okay, I was always my parents have actually been very like good to me. If
I mean, mine too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Always had the best intentions in mind, right? Love you guys, by the way, in case you're listening to this. But there was one point in my life where my parents really wanted to chase like me to go into like computer science or something like that because it's a field where you'll always have a job, right? But listen, this is the kind of student I was. I fucking hated that. I hated coding so much that I don't know if you ever did this in school, but I would be the guy who would take someone else's assignment and literally just take the actual assignment, right? And like just change like a few lines, and instead of like integer X, I would put like integer A or something, and just like and literally just like customize it to my own jargon. So it'd be like, nope, it's different. And like that's how I'd pass all my course, or at least like those coding classes, right? Because I just hated it so much, right? So eventually I had to drop out of that program and switch into something else. But I knew if I stayed in, it would. I was just getting miserable and miserable, and
Yeah, story of my life. That's pretty much how I get through a lot of my exams. Like, we just follow what's in the criteria, and anything that's outside that criteria is marked as wrong. But yeah, that just shows that if you know how to hack the system, then it's just bullshit, basically.
exactly, man. But no, dude, like looking at like the kind of work that you do, man, like there's some incredible shit on there. So what kind before we like end off, can you just tell us like what kind of projects you work on? I know you said like movie posters and stuff, because I saw some stuff of you where it's like there's a Forbes magazine and you're the cover of it, and there's a lot of other like pretty interesting stuff, some funny stuff too. But can you kind of tell us a few examples of what sort of edits you do for people and that you've done in the past? Like I know there's book
Yeah,
covers too.
yeah, I can definitely talk about this. So I've worked on various different projects. Like a lot of it's mainly like fan made artwork, where I've had one of my pictures, which is basically Super Smash Bros. From Nintendo in the format of Avengers Infinity War. That got featured on a news article called EventHubs. So yeah, you can check that out on my page. Like I actually listed it there. There's also other like artwork, like I'd make fan made posters of Super Smash Bros. Or Avengers or Star Wars or different movies and TV shows. Really, like you can see all that on my Instagram page. Follow that at Real Baz. And in terms of client projects, like I've worked with musicians, stand-up comedians. Also worked with a YouTuber called Dave Parata recently on his new book, The Lifestyle Blueprint. Which, by the way, if you guys are looking to really take your career or finances to the next level, I would definitely recommend The Lifestyle Blueprint. Like, it will show you like how to get the lifestyle you want without any of this pyramid scheme nonsense and all that. So Dave has got your best interests in mind. So yeah, definitely recommend checking it out.
I have the book too. Dave Parata, he's like a best-selling Amazon writer. It's I'm not fully done. Yeah, Baz showing up on the screen right now. It's a hell of a book. I would definitely recommend anyone that's listening to this. I would definitely, this is not a sponsorship or anything like that, but I would definitely like recommend that book. Not fully done yet, but it's given me a lot of good insight into like entrepreneurship and finance and kind of growing your social circle and whatnot. But yeah, man.
Yeah. But social circle, having fulfilling relationships, because I see a lot of people, they get into relationships which don't serve them.
Like just toxic ass shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this book will save your life. That's what I'm saying.
That's awesome, man. And and you said you mentioned your Insta handle, so it's at Real Bazkill.
Yeah, Real and then BAZZKILL. I know I've got the word kill in there, but yeah, there's a reason why I came up with that username, and I think that's a video for another time. I also got a YouTube channel.
Right? Is that what it's hinting at? Buzzkill? Like, oh, you're a buzzkill.
Yeah, it's a pun on the word buzzkill. And I had literally one of my friends save me on his contacts as Buzzkill. And it's also my initials, Baz Kannan, BK. So
BK.
Put a lot of thought into
it. That's nice, man. And before we end off on one final note, what's like one piece of advice, if it's anything, if they want to get started into like photography, video editing, and the stuff you do, and like where can they like make it get client work from this?
Client work. Oh, I mean, I'm not sure where to start, but the main thing is taking baby steps and not overwhelming yourself with this one big ass task, because if you see it as like this huge mountain and not stepping stones, then you're going to feel overwhelmed. And that's one of the reasons.
With your head. Yeah, absolutely, man. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Like any kind of struggle that you had growing up that you kind of anything else that photography and your passion helped you overcome?
I think it would have saved me from going into depression, because if you don't find something you're passionate about, or you live by a narrative which isn't truly you, then yeah, that's usually what leads to like depression and insecurities and all these horrible things. So essentially what I would advise is go for what you want and not what society expects of you, because even if you did live by society's expectations, like eventually you're going to end up resenting them, and then that's what's going to lead to a negative spiral, and you project all these insecurities and stuff onto your offsprings, and then it's a vicious cycle. So it's really not one you want to be in. So yeah, dude, definitely
all the time with people who grow up with like really shitty parents, or just really like depressed, sad parents. Like that's where all these like alcohol like addictions and stuff start, because people need to cope with their sadness, right? And I know some people might not agree with me, but I think a lot of that comes from not having like your internal passions fulfilled.
Yeah, living by your values and having the right environment and the people. Because if you're in the wrong environment, like let's say you grew up in Compton Street or whatever, then yeah, it's going to hold you back. But if you're in the right environment, that's going to level you up in ways you can't imagine. And I'm seeing some of this right now, like especially during 2020, where I've met some awesome people. I've been able to really focus on my passions and really just level up in life, really. So
yeah, that's sick, man. Yeah, that's a perfect way to end it off. All right, guys, that's episode 2 of the Shutter Butter podcast. I think Baz Kannan really dropped some pure value on kind of his struggles and how he overcame them with digital photography, and how you can do the same. I think he really also shed some light on how a lot about his mindset and how people should go for what they want in life. So yeah, man, Baz, thank you so much for being on, and I'd love to chat again, man.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad to be able to provide some service, and I hope to change this world for the better and help people get to where they want to be.
Absolutely, man. So his Insta handle again is at Real Bazkill, and that's with 2 Z's. Wait, Z's if you're American, Z's if you're Canadian. Wait, do you guys say Z in the UK? Do you guys say Z or Z in the UK?
Oh, that we say Z. I'm pretty sure it's only America that says Z. I'm not sure.
Is it only America that says Z? Okay, like I don't know why it's only you guys, but anyways, at real Baskill, 2 Z's, Z's, whatever you want to call it, real Baskill, and that's your YouTube channel as well, right? If they want to see some cool edits there too.
Yeah, and if they want editing work from me, like with their YouTube channel, cover art or book covers or whatever it may well be, then yeah, I've got a video on that which showcases like all the work I've done. So yeah, check that out.
Yep, and I'm speaking from experience. Baz actually has helped me with a few stuff on this podcast as well, and also my YouTube channel. So if you want to check him out, highly remember. Thank you, Baz, so much. I'd love to have you on again, man.
Absolutely, likewise.